I don't know the words to any damn songs. Oh well. Slightly cool one out this evening, at least it's not freaking raining. Bike is running cold. Harley-Davidson has moved on from this location. They've been in here for quite some time. I remember coming here for demo rides back in 2002, I think. Let's pull in here quickly. The old service department sitting empty. Man, gotta get rid of this gut. Anyway, I was saying, Kitchener Harley-Davidson, they moved. They're now over in Cambridge, and they changed the name. They're no longer Kitchener Harley-Davidson, which kind of makes sense. They're now BlackBridge Harley-Davidson. No more demo rides out of here. Gotta kind of miss that. Remember, the tires aren't warmed up yet. The road's cold. Man, it's been one screwy spring. Some sad news in the world of motorcycling today. MotoGP legend American Nicky Hayden passed away from injuries he suffered during a bicycle ride, I believe 5 days ago. He was 35 years old. Oh man, slow down, speed racer, holy shit. Just a quick jaunt in the 401. They still got that sucker all pulled up here. Hopefully I can get off at 24. I don't like passing trucks on the right, but my exit's just up here, and I don't feel like getting caught in the wrong lane. So this is Highway 24, Hespeler Road, Cambridge. I'm almost at the new Harley-Davidson. I don't think the camera will pick it up, but I can see it from here. So we're on Holiday Inn Drive in Cambridge, and I'm just coming up to the new Harley-Davidson dealership location. Well, not really a new dealership, just a renamed dealership. Now, BlackBridge Harley-Davidson, as I already mentioned. And they're obviously not open right now. It's Holiday Monday and it's already past 8:30 at night, so Even if it wasn't a holiday, they wouldn't be open. But this is it. This is it. It's much bigger than the old dealership. They love it. So much space for the service department. It's in the same building as the sales department. So anyway, next weekend is their grand opening weekend, so I'm going to hope to get by and get some footage of that. That should be fun. Come and check it out. Like the driveway. Not a bad spot. It's not terribly far from home. It's just not walking distance anymore. Because in the past, when I've had to leave my bike there, I could just walk home. But oh well. Now I'll just have to ask them if they have a loaner bike I can take home. They now rent out motorcycles. They never used to do that, the other dealership, but now they do. Harley-Davidson rentals. Although my understanding is that renting a Harley for a day is not a cheap prospect. one-way iron bridge. This is the BlackBridge, the new Harley-Davidson dealership's namesake. There's a picture of this bridge on their new logo. Just going to pull in here quickly. There's a couple of things I want to point out in the bike. Hopefully it's still light enough to catch what I want to show you. Okay. So I talked about the ignition module in my last video, the Dynatech. That's under here, with the wiring harness that goes through to the other side and up along the frame and hooks into the tachometer and something else I can't remember right now. Anyway, other changes, you can see the Screaming Eagle heads in here. You've got the big Screaming Eagle CV carburetor, 44mm. Under here you got a dry tech air filter. I put on braided brake lines because supposedly they help, and yeah, they seem to work great. Like I said, since I've done that, the brakes have become, they do feel a bit stronger. I don't think they're like magically different. As long as you keep your fluid good. Every 2 or 3 seasons, change this out, drain the system, bleed it properly, and 2 fingers and you're stopping, no problem. I've got a Jag 8-line oil cooler on here. I'm not using it today because it's kind of cool out. I usually use it, summertime I use it pretty much every ride. In the fall and spring, I barely use it because the bike seems to run cool enough. I've got those Kuriakin ISO peg foot pegs, and up until recently I loved them, but I was riding at it was my first ride of the season. I was going to cross a set of train tracks and I stood up in them, and the one on the other side snapped off, and it snapped right in here, right in by the mount. I've been running them for years, and it broke right off. I fell and landed in the seat, and fortunately it didn't affect the handling of the bike, but I had to ride home with my foot resting on the mount for the foot peg. I put in new rubber isolators for the transmission, like the swing arm mount, last year. A few years ago the bike started running rough, and I found that the front rubber motor mount, which is under here, looked fine from the top. The top rubber puck was fine, but it had been chewed out underneath. Up in there it had been chewed out, so I was actually getting metal-to-metal contact with the engine going up and down. So I put in Competition Cam's V-Thunder polyurethane mount, which is a really heavy-duty unit. And in the summertime it's absolutely fantastic. When it's cooler like today, or early spring, late fall, it doesn't absorb the vibration the best. It lets a lot of vibration transmit through the frame. You feel it in the hand grips, you feel it in the foot pegs. But when the temperatures go up, it works great. I'm actually thinking about changing back to a factory mount, but I might wait till fall if I'm going to do that, because it's almost summer anyway. Let's see, I put in, if you're new to FXRs and your handlebars feel wobbly or loose, the rubber bushings that are in here with the risers, when they get old, they don't work so well. What I did was I bought some of the, I believe it was the Arlen Ness polyurethane bushings, and I put them in. You just have to make sure you get them seated in the cups properly when you tighten the risers back on. Because if it's offset in the cup, like sitting on the lip of the cup, your handlebars will be off, they'll be cockeyed. just something to watch for. Overall, vibration is it's pretty darn good. The vibration levels are no worries. You can ride all day without getting annoyed by them. Fasteners on this, the only fasteners I've ever had go loose on me from vibration are the lower triple tree bolts. Never the upper ones, just the lower ones will vibrate loose. And you'll know because you'll get a buzz when you downshift. You'll get a buzzing through the front end that you didn't have before, and it usually means these have dropped from 35 foot-pounds of torque down to about 18 foot-pounds of torque, because when I start noticing the buzz. So I have to tighten these up every once in a while. I think one time I had to tighten up the bolts for the engine mount plate. These bolts here. I think I did that once. The exhaust hanger bolts. Every once in a while I have to tighten those. But nothing else seems to come loose, except for one more thing, and I got that fixed up a while ago. Was in the older FXRs, the oil filter is underneath the transmission, in front of the swing arm. And the mount for the oil filter actually bolts into the back of the transmission there, and it's a pain in the butt to get to the bolt. It's actually over top of the swing arm. It was vibrating loose, so the whole oil filter assembly would vibrate back and forth. I was able to get a small wrench in there and tighten it up, and then when I was having starter issues and I had the starter off the bike, the bolt's exposed because it's right underneath the starter basically, and I torqued it to I'm going to say it was about 20 foot-pounds, and it hasn't come loose since. So I think I did put a little bit of Loctite on that one because it's such a pain in the ass to get to. One other thing, I just remembered this, is the shifting link that comes off the transmission here. I don't know if you can see down there, you probably know it's really dark right now, but that sits on a shaft that goes into the transmission, and there's a bolt that cinches it tight on the shaft. That bolt, this can get loose. Right now, that's good, and I tightened that probably about 5 years ago now. A lot of guys will snap that bolt trying to re-torque it. And some guys will actually cut this off. They'll get in there with a Dremel and they'll cut this off, and you can buy a two-piece unit and bolt that back on so you don't have to pull this or the transmission. What I find is if you do have it loose and you want to tighten it up, don't torque the bolt down until you've backed it off. Back the bolt right the hell out, clean off the threads, put some Loctite on there, or not Loctite, I'd actually recommend anti-seize, and tighten it back in. I think the manual says 15 to 18 foot-pounds. Err on the low side of that number, because around 15 foot-pounds, to me that sucker feels like you're going to twist the bolt off or strip the threads. So that's just that's basically it for anything that's ever come loose vibration-wise. I can't think of anything else I've ever had to tighten up, and I've had this bike for 16 years. So for most bolts, if I'm following the torque measurements that give in the manual, I actually don't use Loctite. I've barely ever put Loctite on anything. I did try Loctite on these lower pinch bolts in the triple trees, and it didn't seem to work. I don't know if there was some anti-seize threaded in there that prevented it from setting up or what. I did use blue Loctite when I put these shocks on. I did use blue Loctite on these bolts. Not the bottom ones, just the top ones. So, other than that, I just go by the torque measurements in the manual, and it all seems to be good. So I think that's basically what I wanted to show you. Cool mural there. This is one of the oldest parts of Cambridge. And there we go. Used about a third of a tank. 106 kilometers. As long as you're not going hot dog, you can get about 300 kilometers out of a tank. And that drops to about 240 if you keep gunning it everywhere. And that's with the Screaming Eagle CD 44mm carburetor. So, with normal riding, you get a decent range, probably better than the butterfly carb gave me. But like I said, drops pretty quick if you're twisting the throttle hard all the time.